Hello and welcome to the Back Nine Report. My name is Carlos Torres, along with Fred Altvater. Every week, we check in on the world of golf to bring you the latest news, insights, analysis, interviews, recaps, previews. Hey, we cover anything and everything golf. In other words, if it happened in golf, we have it for you. Fred, hi, how are you today?
Hey, Carlos, I'm fantastic. We had a little golf last weekend up in Minnesota. The PGA Tour was, I don't know if anybody noticed or not, but the PGA Tour was in Minnesota. I forgot to look up the numbers. I wonder what the TV ratings were for that. And I'm telling you what, we've got another Detroit this week, the Rocket Mortgage Classic, and they don't have much of a field. Tony Finau was the #1 ranked player up in Minnesota. He ended up winning. I think he's 17 ranked in the world. There's not much ranking in Detroit. It's more like a Corn Ferry Tour event. I don't know, Carlos. And then we had a major last week. We had the women played the Evian over in Europe near Geneva. That was Brittany.
Brooke Henderson.
Brooke Henderson finally got her major. Good for her. We've been watching her for a long time, and a lot of stuff going on. And Carlos, we're talking about this, I don't know, this LIV thing. There's still some news about that, and we got some more stuff to talk about that, I guess, huh?
Yeah, there's something interesting that came out because Eamon Lynch has this column in the Golfweek from the USA Today. And, he brought in a very interesting topic. And, everybody has been critical about the LIV Golf and with all the concerns and everything, sports washing, everything that it's being said about them. But he says that there's something that the LIV Golf has gotten right and that the PGA Tour might have to copy it. And what is that? It's plain and simple, guaranteed contracts. And the point is the following. If you take a look at the NBA, MLB, NFL, and all these other sports, right, that have contracts for their players, right? So that gives them some assurance of hey, I have to play. I know that I'm gonna get my contract. But with the PGA Tour in golf, well, you go there, and if you don't produce, you don't win, which makes it that independent contractor that we have been talking about as well, which brings it to those possible lawsuits in the future that, hey, I'm an independent contractor, I can play wherever I go. So that also brings another topic that I would like to talk about is like, okay, if you're now signing a guaranteed contract, can you really play anywhere, right? That would be the one thing, which is a good thing for the LIV players because now they know, hey, I'm going to be able to play. I know I have my money, my money's worth is already there. Whatever I do, I can be first, I can be last. I have a guaranteed contract, and whatever comes in from my production, it's just icing on the cake, to put it that way. That is one point that he's bringing with this. Fred, let's start with this. How do you see that in regards to the LIV and does the PGA Tour, which to me is the same thing that happens in tennis. In tennis, you go to your tournaments, you are earning money according to how you produce. So we're talking about, Eamon says, is an old way of doing the things. It's an outdated business model. So what do you think about this initially?
One of the things that he's not taking into consideration is sponsorship agreements. So yes, the PGA Tour has historically not paid set fees or appearance fees or a sum of money to a player to play on the PGA Tour. That just has not happened. They've historically, the better you play, the more you earn. If you play poorly and miss a cut, you don't make anything that week. You go home. Now, there are a couple of things. One is the PGA Tour doesn't pay appearance fees, but they do pay for exhibitions and they pay for clinics. So when Tiger was really hot, a lot of tournaments would pay Tiger $1 million to come and put on a meet for a dinner, or to put on a clinic or something like that. So they'd get him to come that week, at least cover his jet fuel to come in, to play. So that's not really appearance money, but that's how they kind of got around it. The other thing that I want to address is sponsorship money. But again, a player has to play well and become a household name and become popular to get sponsors to really give him the money. Phil Mickelson had a lot of sponsors. A lot of them dropped him when he went to LIV and created all his problems. Tiger Woods made, Tiger made of his $100 million a year that he was earning every year, he would only make 10 or 15 million in prize money. The other 85 or $80 million every year came from sponsorship money. So he had money in his pocket. Okay. These top guys, all the top guys have sponsorship money, whether it be Titleist, whether it be a clothing deal, whether it's equipment deal, whatever. They've got money in their pocket. So they have some guaranteed money. Now, that may go away if they don't perform well. If they're missing cuts, they may lose that. But the same thing's going to happen on the LIV. If they're not playing well, they're going to get bounced out of the 48, and they're going to lose that as well. Maybe they get their money up front, but still, to stay in there and play, they got to keep playing well. So I kind of wanted to get that in there. So the other problem is for a PGA Tour player, if you become injured, you're not getting paid. Now, you probably have an insurance policy that pays you while you're in your downtime or that kind of thing. But those are expensive as well. Anthony Kim is a prime example of that. He got hurt and couldn't play. And so he got a $10 million payout from an insurance policy. And he got better and wanted to start playing again, but he couldn't because he'd have to forfeit that money and give it back. So, guaranteed money, what the LIV is doing, saying, okay, we're going to give you this cash up front. We're going to pay you for the next 3 years. We're going to pay you a lump sum of money. Boom, boom, boom. And you can show up. Whatever prize money you earn, you get to keep on top of what we're already paying you. And that's fine. And that's good. And Eamon Lynch's article is good in the fact that it addresses guaranteeing contracts. But, Carlos, it doesn't address the sponsorship money. And I shouldn't say appearance fee money, but exhibition and clinic money and those kind of things that players earn in addition to what they earn as prize money.
Well, I think the issue here is because take it from this. Every player sponsorships are for the best players. Doesn't matter in any sports, sponsorship money is the same thing, whether you are a top player with a guaranteed contract or not. So sponsorship is not that much relevant, I would say, here, because you're going to get it if you're a top player or not. I guess that the point for him is more on those players that are not at that top level. Okay, and the ones, like you say, if I get injured, I cannot do anything about that. Those other players, doesn't matter what I do have a contract. I do have some assurances here that I'm going to be able to play there. And again, same thing with the appearances fee. Not everybody is able to get that at this point. And after the Tiger, we rarely see that anymore. So I wouldn't even count that much as appearances fee anymore, because it's really, that was a Tiger thing more than anything else. Right now, it's very rare to see that happening, other than we saw it on the Saudi International. Again, that's the same people that are paying this guys right now. So if you come to think about it, it's more about how do we get these other players that are on the lower end to get some assurances that you're going to get some money. Doesn't matter what you do. You're going to earn your living without having to sacrifice that much that you're doing right now. One of the big things that we have talked always about is about the sacrifice live of those lower players on tour right now to try to get and earn some money. So if you guarantee that to them, hey, they'll be fine. There's not going to be any bigger issues if you come to think about it. So the problem is it something that the PGA Tour should examine or not? Because where are they going to get the money from, first of all, to pay all that lot more players than what the LIV is paying right now? Because the big question that I really have with LIV is, after that 48, what happens if you all of a sudden, that's not going to happen, but all of a sudden you get the top 48 players in the world to play for you? What is going to happen to all those other players? They haven't said anything about that. That's where the big dilemma to me comes with this league. What are you going to do once you start getting all those players that you want? What are you going to do with those others? Do you have a contingency plan to have some other tournaments that they can play in as well? Or what is it going to be? That's where I think at some point, all the tours would have to get together. And maybe that's where this would come to fruition, right? Maybe they get together and say, okay, let's come up with a package that we can ensure our players some type of a contract. Either you play here from a feeder tour to our biggest tour and all that stuff. That's what something that we have been talked about all this time. But definitely to me, the way that I see it is that the top players will always get their sponsorships. They will get their appearances fees, if any. But the reality is, what do you do with those other struggling players to guarantee something that they can say, okay, I'm earning some money. I have something to look for. And another point that he was saying there in the article is making sure that you know when the top players are going to be playing is something that attracts the sponsors, because right now they're just counting on, well, these are the biggest tournaments. I think that's where they're going to be because those historically have been the ones. But if for some assurance you have that these 10 to 12 tournaments, you're going to have the top players, then you can actually know, okay, I'm putting my money where the top players are really going to be. So I know there's going to be return there because there's going to be people seeing those players. Now, he also says that the counter is that the PGA Tour has been saying, well, that hasn't been an issue so far. But to me, the operative word there, Fred, is so far.
Well, and that's just my point too. How long do you think that the 3M Championship or the Rocket Mortgage Classic, those sponsors are going to pony up $6 or $8 million to sponsor those tournaments when they can't get top players? Tony Finau was a top player in Minnesota. I think he's number 17 in the world. He ended up winning that because Piercy fell in the lake or something. I don't know. He disappeared on Sunday. And nobody's coming to Detroit. And Detroit's a big market. It's a big tournament. It's a nice payday. But because of where it falls, coming out of Europe and getting ready for the FedEx Cup here, nobody's playing. So how long are those sponsors going to want to keep putting up that money? The other point too, Carlos, that I want to cover is that you touched on it, that Jay Monahan works for the PGA Tour. The PGA Tour is owned by the players, not only the top 10 players in the world, but the 200 or the 300 or 500th ranked player in the world that has a PGA Tour card, that is a PGA Tour member. He is a part of the PGA Tour, and Jay Monahan works for him. So those bottom guys are looking for a way to guarantee some money, because they're not making the $15 million a year that these other top guys are making in prize money. They're bumping along. I know this sounds really stupid. They're bumping along at 800,000 or $1 million or $1.5 million a year. To you and me, that's a lot of money. And that's the thing that when I'm going through this today, I'm thinking, when these guys get their tour card, when they make it to the PGA Tour, they're going to make some money. First of all, they're going to get sponsorship money. I know you say it's the same, but not all of them are going to get to go to the LIV because they only want the top players anyhow, really. They don't want these other guys. So these guys, once they make a tour, they're going to get some sponsorship money. And that could amount to maybe $2, $3, $4, $5 million a year right there. They're going to play in some tournaments, and if they happen to have 2 or 3 good weeks, they're going to make another $1.5 million or $2 million for the year. So they're going to make $6, $7 million for the year. Okay. Now that's not chicken feed. I don't care if they only play 1 year and they're done, they're out, and they have to go get another job someplace. That's good money. So the numbers get beyond me, Carlos. We've grown up. I've grown up watching the PGA Tour playing for prize money, making the cut on Friday to make a check on the weekend. Guaranteed contracts, I just don't, I cannot, I'm not smart enough to figure these things out, okay? How the PGA Tour would actually do that. Are they going to, if you make the PGA Tour, boom, you get a $5 million contract for the year. And if you've won a major, you bump up a category. If you've been on the PGA Tour now for 5 years, boom, that bumps you up to another matrix, kind of like a teacher's contract, tenure contract. When you're there, so you're different levels. If you keep earning, if you keep staying on tour, I'm not smart enough to figure all this out. I don't know. It would be a completely different deal than what we see today, and I don't know. I don't know how they would do it. I'm not going to say they will never do it, because they may be forced into doing something like that. But I don't know how they would do it. And the other question I have is, how long is the Rocket Mortgage and John Deere going to put up, and the Minnesota put up with poor fields? They just can't do it.
That's the biggest question. What's going to happen when all these sponsors say, you're not putting the best players out there? Do you reduce maybe your your calendar to lesser amount of tournaments, which would benefit and somehow offset what the LIV is offering? I'm offering less tournaments, more money, right? But looking at here, like let's say the number 200 player right now on the PGA Tour and the FedEx Cup is Aaron Baddeley, and he's made just 199,000, almost $200,000. But when you go to Scotty Scheffler, who's made over 13 million, the second player is over 9 million. There's a big difference, right? But if you go to the top 125, then those are close to $1 million, which is your point right there. But how do you feed off all those players to make sure that they get the same thing? Would you be able to say, okay, at least everybody will get $1 million? Here it is. So that's $200 million right there. Where are you going to come up with that? It's ridiculous. So like you're saying, that's a lot of money and a lot of numbers. How the LIV is doing it, of course, there's a lot less players. There's funded by the Saudis and all that, but there has to be somewhere something that will be reached out. I don't know what it is. Like this is just another interesting thing that it's under weekly development and stories that come out regarding the LIV and the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour. What it will come down, I don't know, but it's just interesting thinking. Those things are things that are out there, and the players now are listening to it. And I really would like to see if I can get some of that too. But definitely we'll have to learn about that in the future, but something they're interesting for everybody to consider. Any final words before we close?
No, the only thing I've been thinking about, especially over the last couple of weeks, if I were in Jay Monahan's position, what would I have done differently? What could I do differently? How could they change, or how could they restructure this? And I don't have any answers, Carlos. I've followed the PGA Tour now for 60 years. Okay. And I don't have any answers for Jay. I don't know what he would have done. The only thing that I could see that might have done differently is that tried to reach out to Greg, and maybe he's done this, and have a conversation and see if something could be worked out. But I don't think Greg's in the mood to work anything out. And now he's kind of got the upper hand. So I don't know what can be worked out with him, because now I'm sure he's feeling pretty good about himself. So yeah, I don't know, Carlos. I know we're not done talking about this. I know we'll talk about it some more, but guaranteed contracts for the PGA Tour, don't know how it would work.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know either. But if there's an advice I would say to Jay, it would be, because like I don't know what he could do different, but if he wants to turn this now into something that everybody would look at him, hey, he's trying, they're trying to do something, is just put it back on Greg. Hey, we are trying to talk to you. We have some ideas here, but you're the one not listening. Put it on his, put the public opinion on him. I say, hey, we are willing to do this and that, but you haven't been able to. So
I know one guy that's real happy. I bet Tim Fincham just sitting at home, just tickled to death. He's not involved in this thing now.
Everybody's happy. Eh? That's not me. It's on you now.
It's all yours, baby.
So anyway, thank you for joining us. It's always our pleasure to bring you the latest in sports news, golf news, and information. Thank you for joining us. Remember to subscribe to our channels right down there on the description, the link to subscribe. Thank you for joining.